I trust that the kind of people who would watch this video are the kind that don't need to hear the rant at the beginning of this, but I'm gonna put it in there anyway because I can't help myself. A certain anthropomorphized toupee was recently quoted as saying, "As of January 20th, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female." Now, there are a lot of places that I could go from here, but since this video is meant to transition into being a discussion on media, I'm going to try to keep it brief. One is that there aren't even two sexes. If you want to talk biology, as all transphobes do, you should know that there are 5 to 6 characteristics that determine sex, those being chromosomes, gonads, internal organs, external presentation, and secondary characteristics that become present during puberty. There are many instances in which not all of these things line up as being only male or only female, leading to the existence that is intersex people. Secondly, nearly half of the country, that being 22 states and DC, have already allowed citizens to choose X as an identifier on their driver's license. We've got literally half of the country, at least, on the state level saying, yeah, there are non-binary people, and this is how we're going to categorize them. And finally, most importantly, just throw it out there, non-binary people have always existed, and no matter what language you want to use, will always exist. Okay, so trans rights, and let's get into it. From 2020 to 2023, the wonderful Dana Terrence showed viewers the beauty and terror that is the Boiling Isles. When Luce, an outcast human, comes across a magic door in the forest, she is transported to a vibrant world of weirdos where she finally feels that she belongs. Now, this show dances across the tonal spectrum, showing everything as sweet as sapphic crushes and as wonderful as found family wholesome adventures, to dipping into the deepest darkness that can be shown on Disney, that being forced conformity, familial trauma, loss of humanity, and understanding the gravity of death. Yeah! We continue this journey with the help of my cat. Andrew Joseph White's Compound Fracture and Hell Followed With Us are both very dark books that actually differ quite a lot in terms of how it uses reality. So Compound Fracture is very much a grounded tale talking about real life bigotry that can occur within small towns and an abuse of power, where Hell Followed With Us is very heavy on sci-fi elements and body horror. Both are led by trans boys and feature queer relationships and non-binary side characters. Personally, I prefer Dallas in Compound Fracture to Salvador, but both characters serve as good representations. And if you have any doubt that you might be autistic, if you read this book, any of these books that Andrew Joseph White writes, it will become very apparent by how well or how strongly you relate to the character, whether or not you're on the spectrum. He's a great writer, and again, I cannot recommend these books enough. If you're a person on the internet, you have already heard of Doctor Who. You've probably even seen a few clips, but what I really want to impart when I give this recommendation is that Doctor Who is not as smart as you might fear. That is to say, I initially stayed away from it because I was worried I wouldn't be able to understand a bunch of highfalutin sci-fi concepts, and that is very much not the case. Also, you do not have to watch 30 years of television prior to 2005 if you don't want to. Just focusing on 2005 forward is fine. You could even pick up with the new series on Disney, where you can also meet the non-binary character that is Maestro. Absolutely love them. But you would miss out on some real bangers, that being characters like Missy and River and Donna, and episodes like Midnight or The Doctor's Wife. Also, all of David Tennant and Peter Capaldi. If you prefer your experience with anime to be through stuff like Attack on Titan or My Hero or Dragon Ball, Komi Can't Communicate is not going to be the show or manga for you. But if you're the kind of person who gets excited by a sports day arc, this is absolutely going to be your jam. It is just this terribly sweet story of a girl who is too anxious to speak, but hopes to make at least 100 friends before graduating high school. And the one guy who always knows what she's thinking. Super cute! All of the characters are intentionally unique, almost like the Ultimates from Danganronpa. And for the most part, they're very likable. Most of them. And the non-binary character in question, Najmi, is a really interesting, energetic force that is known for being really charismatic and a friend to everyone. So if you need a show that'll make you kick your feet and squeal, this is absolutely it. The first Child's Play film is fine, but I personally think that they really find their stride starting in the 90s when they embrace the camp and comedy that is a 2-foot-tall killer. This film goes on to introduce Chucky and Tiffany's gender fluid child, which is known, or they are known as Glenn or Glenda. And admittedly, their puppet is very unsettling to me, but I'm happy for the rep nonetheless. I mean, come on, it shows that even a psycho-possessed doll can understand pronouns. Unfortunately, beloved as it was, Our Flag Means Death only lasted 2 seasons before being canceled, but if you're someone who still has HBO Max, you should definitely give it a watch, especially if you've ever thought, you know, I really want more gay pirates in my life. I don't see why you would say that, but if you did. Not to mention, we've got the comedic stylings of Rhys Darby, or is it Rhys Darby? I don't know how to say his name. And Taika Waititi. And the non-binary character Jim is also represented by Viggo Ortiz, who is a non-binary person, and went on to act in the much beloved Sex Lives of College Girls. So you can check them out in other projects as well. I would recommend this to anyone who's ever thought that they even sort of kind of like sci-fi. It is so good, and I've met so few people who've even heard of this book. Unemployed at the height of the pandemic, Jamie Gray is given the opportunity of a lifetime when an old acquaintance offers them a position at an underground organization known as the Kaiju Preservation Society. With no scientific background, Jamie's job is mostly a lot of grunt work and administrative tasks, helping out with scientific research on a subject that is definitely not Godzilla. Admittedly, I don't remember the character who is non-binary in this very well, but given Jamie as a protagonist is presented very ambiguously in terms of what their gender actually is, it's almost like you get an honorable mention in there. Also, if anyone knows the closest real-life equivalent to a job like this, please let me know because it sounds great. And finally, we have the amazing Digital Circus. Hooray for indie projects! It's just so excited to see an animated project take off on YouTube the way that the amazing Digital Circus has. Of course, the series is still ongoing, so I can't attest to the satisfaction of how the story is going to wrap up, but thus far it has proved that there are hints of something darker that gives me the sort of level of intrigue that I have not seen since I was watching Gravity Falls. So I've got hopes, and if nothing else, I'm just glad to see that Glitch is succeeding. And that is actually all that I have today. Admittedly, this list is far from all-encompassing and was sort of thrown together, you know, out of spite. But I admit there are some notable mentions that I've missed out. For one, Double Trouble from She-Ra, and Darren from Heartbreak High. I just can't recommend those things because I have not seen either of those works, but I've heard good things. And isn't that enough? I'll try to leave more thorough lists in the description, but I also hope that you'll include your favorite non-binary representation in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.